What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is GemmaJadeYT, but today we are going to be discussing the frightening disappearance of Tara Calico. I have covered this before on this channel, but it was years ago, and it's just such an incredibly fascinating and strange case that I figured it was time to go over it again. Many times in this community, we come across cases that are so incredibly baffling, we struggle with our humanity in wondering how something like this could actually happen. While we cover hundreds of cases here on this channel of people who have gone missing, some who have turned back up alive, some who have been found deceased, and still others who have never been found at all, as they say, the devil's in the details. It's the smallest detail sometimes that can either make or break a case, or that can leave us scratching our heads and being even more confused than when we first started out. The disappearance of Tara Calico is one of those cases where you kind of feel like you're right on the brink of having answers, right? And then you turn around and find out the next bit of information brings you right back around to the beginning again, right back at square one. This sad and frightening case is one of thousands where the person was abducted and never seen or heard from again. However, it's the little clues along the way that make this case stand out so much. So let's jump right in. Tara Calico was from Belen, New Mexico, and this is where her home was when she left it on the morning of September 20th, 1988. Tara was 19 years old and had her whole life ahead of her. She had no idea that when she went out for her usual bike ride at 9:30 that morning, it would turn out to be the last time she would ever see her home or her family again. Her mother rode with her up until very recently when she felt the two were being stalked by a passing motorist, and she was too scared to continue on the morning rides with her daughter. This would be a strange and sad coincidence and foreboding that neither mother nor daughter had any idea would be so relevant and possibly close to the truth until it was too late. As far as they were concerned, this day was no different than all the rest. A perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, or so it seemed. Tara refused the mace her mother suggested she carry along with her following the alleged stalker incident and insisted her mom was just being paranoid. Tara had a date to play tennis with her boyfriend at 12:30 that day and asked her mother to come and pick her up if she wasn't home by noon. When 11:30 hit and there was still no sign of Tara, Patty, her mom, set out to go and pick her up as planned. She drove the usual route, but this time Tara was nowhere to be found. This was long before the days of cell phones, so Patty wasn't able to just call her daughter and ask her where she was or why she wasn't where she was supposed to be. This was immediately concerning for Patty, and she contacted the authorities pretty much right away and reported her daughter as missing. Obviously, she still had it in her head that they had been being stalked for several days when they had gone out on their usual bike ride. So why wouldn't she be nervous immediately? As the authorities investigated further and searched along the route Tara was known to have been riding that day, they did find pieces of her Sony Walkman and her cassette tape. Though there was no way of knowing for sure that these items belonged to Tara, the family were pretty much convinced as they knew what her belongings looked like. Tara was a creature of habit and brought along the same Walkman cassette player and tape with her every single day. Tara's family believed that she might have purposely dropped those items to not only mark her trail, but also to alert whoever came looking for her that she was in some kind of danger. I mean, after all, there would be no reason for her to have just left her stuff broken and lying on the side of the road. Why would her stuff have been broken at all? During the investigation, several people came forward and said that they saw Tara riding her bicycle along the route where her items were found. Her bicycle, to this day, has still never been located. No one witnessed her presumed abduction, however, and there weren't many clues other than the people who claimed to have seen either her or the broken Walkman scattered around the area where she was last seen by several passerby. So there were witnesses who could put her where the broken stuff was. There were several witnesses who said they saw a light-colored 1953 or 54 Ford pickup truck with a camper shell following her, but the authorities were never able to locate the owner of this vehicle or the vehicle itself. It's unknown whether or not it's connected to Tara's disappearance at all. Tara's case went cold fairly quickly, and her family and loved ones were left with no answers, and the perpetual fear that Tara would be found deceased somewhere, and the perpetual hope that she would once again come walking through the front door someday. In June of 1989, it seemed that new life was breathed back into this case when terrifying new evidence was possibly found in the parking lot of a convenience store in Port St. Joe, Florida. A photograph was lying on the ground between two vehicles. The woman who found the photo said that it was found in the parking space of where a white windowless Toyota cargo van driven by a man with a mustache, she believed to have been in his 30s, was parked when she arrived at the store. However, despite the police setting up roadblocks in an attempt to intercept the vehicle, the man was never caught nor brought to interrogation. The picture in question was a Polaroid which showed a little boy and a young woman, both bound and gagged and with terrified looks on their faces. Because of the duct tape and gags in their mouths, it was hard to tell who the image was of. It was theorized by investigators, however, that the young woman in the photo was Tara Calico and that the boy was Michael Henley, also of New Mexico, who had disappeared in April of 1988. According to investigators, the picture had to have been taken after May of 1989 because the particular film used in the photograph was not available until that time. The identification of the boy in the photograph as Michael Henley does seem unlikely because his remains were discovered in 1990 in the Zuni Mountains, about 7 miles from his family's campsite where he disappeared from, and this was also 75 miles from where Tara Calico had disappeared herself. There was much back and forth and conjecture about this, but in the end, the standing ruling is that it was not Michael Henley in that picture. Police believe he simply wandered off and sadly died of exposure to the elements. Tara's mother, Patty, believed that the girl in the picture was in fact her daughter, and this positive identification was mainly made due to a scar the woman in the photo had on her leg, which, according to Patty, was identical to one Tara had in the exact same spot on her leg. Tara had received this particular scar due to an injury she suffered from a car accident when she was younger. In addition, a paperback copy of V.C. Andrews' book, My Sweet Audrina, said to be one of Tara Calico's favorite books, can be seen in the photo lying next to the woman. Scotland Yard analyzed the photo and concluded that the woman was Tara, but a second analysis by the Los Alamos National Laboratory disagreed. An FBI analysis of the photo was inconclusive. This is where the case seems to take an even more bizarre turn. 20 years after the discovery of the photograph, which was of course widely shared by the media at the time, pictures of a little boy were sent to the Port St. Joe Police Chief, David Barnes. He received 2 letters, postmarked June 10th and August 10th, 2009, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. One letter contained a photo printed on copy paper of a young boy with sandy brown hair. Someone had drawn a black band in ink on the photo over the boy's mouth as if it were covered in tape, as in the 1989 original picture. It seemed whoever sent the photos was alluding to the fact that the boy in the original photograph, found all those years ago, was Michael Henley after all. Again, though, this has never been officially confirmed. The second letter contained an original image of the boy. On August 12th, the Star newspaper in Port St. Joe received a third letter also postmarked in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on August 10th, and depicting the same image of a boy with black marker drawn over his mouth. None of the letters contained a return address, obviously, or a note indicating the child's identity, making the officials there believe it may have something to do with the disappearance of Tara Calico instead. The letters were sent in around the same time a self-proclaimed psychic called the detective about Tara, saying she had met a runaway in California with whom she worked in a strip club, who eventually ended up murdered. The caller said she had dreams suggesting the runaway may have been Tara Calico and that she may be buried somewhere in California. Though it was a long shot and there was no real location given publicly as to where the alleged psychic said the girl could possibly be buried, the police must have had some additional information, as they did conduct searches and reported that these searches led to nothing and no bodies at all had been found. Not of Tara Calico or of anyone else. Additionally, these photos were given to the FBI for further investigation in hope of finding fingerprints or possible DNA evidence, but nothing really ever came of it. 20 years after she had disappeared that fateful day in September of 1988, Sheriff of Valencia County, California at the time, named Rene Rivera, reported that he had received what he believed to be credible information that finally explained what happened to Tara. This information alleged that some boys who knew her drove up behind her in a truck and some form of car accident followed. Tara later died and those responsible covered up the crime. Rivera states he knows the names of those involved, but that without a body, he couldn't make a case. He hasn't released whatever evidence has led him to this conclusion publicly. No arrests have been made and the case does remain open. Tara's stepfather, John Dole, has disputed these claims, saying that the sheriff should not have made these comments if he was not willing to arrest anyone and that strong circumstantial evidence should be enough for a conviction. 2 other Polaroid photographs, possibly of Tara, surfaced over the years. The first was found near a construction site in Montecito, California, and is a blurry photo of a girl's face with tape covering her mouth and light blue striped fabric behind her, quote, similar to that on the pillow in the Toyota van photo, end quote. It was taken on film that was not available until June of 1989. The second shows, quote, a woman loosely bound in gauze, her eyes covered with more gauze, and large black framed glasses, end quote, with a male passenger beside her on an Amtrak train. The film used was not available until February of 1990. Tara's mother believed the first one was Tara, but thought that the second may have been some kind of sick joke. Her sister stated, quote, they had a striking, uncalming resemblance. As for me, I won't rule them out. But keep in mind, our family has had to identify many other photographs, and all but those 3 were ruled out, end quote. In October of 2013, a 6-person task force was established to reinvestigate Tara's disappearance. As of 2017, no arrests have been made and the case is still open. On October 1st, 2019, the FBI announced that they are, quote, offering a reward of up to $20,000 for precise details leading to the identification or location of Tara Lee Calico and information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her disappearance, end quote. In September of 2021, the Valencia County Sheriff's Office and the New Mexico State Police issued a statement that they do have a new lead in the case and that the focus of a sealed warrant for an unknown private residence located within Valencia County has been issued. However, no further details were provided. There have been no additional updates at this time, and I'm filming this in July of 2025. So that was 4 years ago. So what happened to Tara Calico? Is it possible some boys she knew, possibly from her neighborhood or her school, decided to try and scare her but took it too far and accidentally ran her over and killed her, leading to them then having to cover it up and get rid of her body and bicycle, as Sheriff Rivera claims to believe? If this is the case, then why wasn't the witness or witnesses who allegedly came forward to him with this information called in to testify? As Tara's stepfather stated, the circumstantial evidence should have been enough for conviction. Is it possible that her mother was right and perhaps someone had been stalking the 2 of them and saw Tara alone and decided to take the opportunity to abduct her right there on the side of the road? Were any of the photographs handed in actually of Tara? What was the new lead in the case back in 2019, and why had nothing ever come of this alleged search warrant on a private residence? These are questions we hope one day will be answered. If for nothing else, then that Tara's family could at least begin to heal. Maybe